Good evening and welcome back to today's The Hindu Analysis. And today's date is 20th December 2021. So let's start with the first news article of today's paper is questioning the impartiality of the Election Commission. This news is from Polity, and this is the what we are talking about. What should be a reform should bring from for Election Commission in India, whether election you see for Parliament, whether for Vidhan Sabha election, whether they are working properly or not. That is the main thing here. So questioning the impartiality of the Election Commission is the main context here. So why this article was in news? So basically the informal meeting between the Chief Election Commissioner and the election commissioners with the Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister have raised question to propriety. So this is what an informal meeting between Chief Election Commissioner with the Election Commissioner with the Principal Secretary and with the Prime Minister have raised a question of prosperity, whether they are fair election doing or not. This is the very important question mark here. So in this case, first of all, we have to understand the Election Commission of India. What are the power and functions given to Election Commission of India? As we know that this is a one of the important constitutional body. So let's talk about some important point about the Election Commission of India. So the Election Commission of India is an autonomous constitutional authority responsible for administering the election process in India. The body administers the elections to the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and the state legislative assemblies in India and the offices of the president and vice president in the country. So this is very important for prelims point of view. They can ask you a question: which of the following area where election commission conduct doing elections, their job is their power and function is given. So in that case, you have to know the election of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and state legislative assembly along with the office of the president, vice president. These all are allocated to the Election Commission of India. Now, as per the Article 324 of the Indian Constitution, the superintendence, direction, and control of elections to be vested in an election commission. Now, the important function of the commission, including deciding the election schedules, preparing electoral rolls, issuing electronic photo identity card, granting recognition to political parties, allotting election symbol, and using a model code of conduct in election for political parties and candidate, setting limits for campaign expenditure, and also monitoring of the same. These are all the functions given to the Election Commission of India. Next important one is originally the commission had only one election commissioner, but after the Election Commission Amendment Act 1989, it has been made a multi-member body. Now the commission currently consists of one chief election commissioner and two election commissioners. So this point is also very important. For exam point of view, they can ask you a question about the multi-member body. How many members are there along with the chief election commissioner? Now, what is the main concern here? Why this was in news and why this was question was raised for this? Now the meeting has raised the question about the functioning of the commission. Okay, it has raised the question about the neutrality and independent functioning of the commission. As you know, this is a constitutional body, and without any being a bias, the body have to conduct an election for the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, along with the president and vice president of India. So in that case, this body must be a neutral. This body must be neutral. It should not be aligned with any of the party. It should not be give a favor of any of the party. It should be always be a neutral. It will always be a common means things for the all the parties of India, and it should be a conduct a fair election. That is the right given, fundamental right given of each and every citizen of India, that they have to choose their leader according by their casting a vote. So that will be always be maintained. That dignity always be maintained of the election commission. Now the three election commission are expected to maintain a distance from the executive, a constitutional safeguard to insulate the commissions from external pressure and allow it to continue as an independent authority. Okay, so this what the three-member body must be a maintain a distance from the executive, because if they are doing a meeting, such an informal meeting with the prime minister, then it's so something very that also reduce the trust among the people for their government. Okay, whether the government is doing fair election or not, whether we know that every year election we know some problems arises with the electronic voting machine. So that should be always make such questions will be always raised in the mind of the voters, That is the main here is that we people or we believe this constant body. So that's why this election commission member should be a maintain a distance from the executive. Second important thing is over the last couple of years, several action of the commission have come under criticism. A lot of the criticism have because of the result that happened the election in our country in many of the Vidhan Sabha of the states, along with the Lok Sabha elections. There was always a concern. There was always raised a question on the whether the election commission played partially to and favoring any other party or not. So a lot of criticism is arising in the past couple of years. We had seen a lot of news. It is blamed that overlooking of various instances of violation of the model of code of conduct during the various elections. The commission belated decision is banning election campaign in the midst of the pandemic came under a severe criticism. Okay. Next important thing is here that election commission must be maintain a distance from the executive, and it should be always do a impartial. It should be always be a neutral and do a fair and good election in our country. Okay. Now the next important article is the third desert expanding fast with the land degradation. It was found by the study. So we can say this is a one important news from the environment. Okay, so how the desertification situation is increases and how this is spread from the Thar desert to eastern part of India. Now, recently the study on desertification of Thar region conducted by Central University of Rajasthan as part of an assessment of the environmentally sensitive areas within the framework of the United Nations Convention to combat desertification. Now, the Thar desert is the world's 9th largest hot subtropical desert. Okay. Now, this study find out that how this deserts area is spreading more in India, and that governments are concerning that this type of problems, environmental problems, will be not good for our agriculture areas, because it will make a fertile land into unfertile, a productive land change into unproductive. That is the concern here. And details here is the scientists study the climate and vegetation in Thar to understand the desertification process. Now, the desertification is a land degradation in arid, semi-arid, and dry subhumid areas, collectively known as drylands, resulting from factors including both human activities and climatic variations. So desertification leads to a loss of biological productivity of soils, as a result of which fertile areas become increasingly arid. The study notes that the fast forward eastward expansion of the Thar desert in India. This is very important to know the reason. Now, there is a very many of the factors responsible for this. So in general, desertification is caused by various variation in climate and by unsustainable land management practices in dry land environment. So climate variation, changes in rainfall, that include changes in rainfall, patterns of rainfall, higher temperature. These are the some reason. And further, other important reason is unregulated mining, destruction of Aravallis, and loss of green cover. These all are a reason for increasing desertification. And both these factors responsible for contributing to desertification in eastern Rajasthan. Now, overexploitation of resources had led to reduction in vegetation cover in the areas of adjacent to the Thar desert, contributing to its expansion beyond 4 districts in Western Rajasthan. Now, the destruction of the Aravalli ranges due to unregulated, unsustainable mining operation is a major factor contributing to the desertification in the region. Now, the Aravalli hill has acted as a natural green wall between the desert and the plains. Now, climate change also seems to be contributing to the spread of arid region. The changes in the rainfall pattern, higher temperature is aiding the spread of sand dunes beyond their traditional regions. Now, what are the concerns here? The degradation of land posing a threat to desert ecology and the flora and fauna of the regions. The failure to control the spread of sand dunes will have an impact on the Aravalli ranges, northern part as an ecotonal area, acting as a transition zone between the ecological systems. Notably, this region supports a large population. Now, the increasing desertification result in sandstones from the desert traveling as far or as the national capital region. in the years to come. The sandstorms will also become a more intense with the erosion of the Aravallis, and also the suspended particles from the arid regions are contributing to the air pollution in NCR region. So this is all are the concern, and government have to focus on how to reduce the effect of such a desertification, so that a clean environment should be maintained, and agriculture soil should be always maintain its fertility, and that will produce a good quality of crops. The next important article is, can India become a technological leader? This is a very important question in front of India, as India is focusing on more on research and development in different technologies, as not far behind the USA and Japan. So India is also working on indigenous technology. India is also developing skills in among the workers, so that they can able to adopt a new technology as soon as possible. Now, in this case, we can say that India is presently not a major player in the field of technology due to certain challenges. And on the other side, there are many celebrated Indian technologists around the world, as many of the technology giants choose an Indian-born techie as their leader. Now, the conversation around the Indian executives at the helm of the top tech companies has gathered some of the momentum, with the Parag Agrawal taking over as Twitter CEO. The major technology companies like Google and its parent company Alphabet, Microsoft, and Twitter, Adobe, and IBM are headed by Indians. In the case of the USA, the Indian immigrants in the US are the part of the most educated and professionally accomplished communities in that country. So as of 2019, there were 2.7 million Indians immigrants in the US, and they are working very good. They are CEOs of many of the technological companies. The government of US has been instrumental in the triumphs of enterprise and the free market. The governmental agencies have been actively supporting the research and developments which carry a higher risk, and thus the private sector would not enter into those. Now, the Google success and discovery of the molecular antibodies are some of the successful results of such government fundings. Now, strategy of China, we have to focus to China, and this China's strategy we have to also follow. The China marked its dominance on the global market by combining the strength of the public sector, market, and globalizations. It restructured the state-owned enterprises, which were seen as inefficient. The state-owned enterprises strategically participate in the technological dynamic industries such as the electronics and machineries that are the important one, and the state retreated from the light manufacturing and export-oriented sectors, leaving the field open for the private sector. When we talk about the case of India, the starting pitch of the development goals, industry, and technology was rightly put. There were industry-oriented objectives in the Indian planning in the early 1950s. So there was a public sector funding for the latest technologies, including space and atomic research. The era of globalization required a greater effort to strengthen the technological capabilities of the country, but the spending on the research and development as a proportion of GDP declined in India from 0.85% in 1991 to 0.65% in 2018. The spending on research and development as a proportion of GDP has increased over the year in China and South Korea. Favorable factors for India. So India has the potential to become a leading nation in the field of technology by the right recognition and strengthening the supply and demand factors. India has the highest enrollment to tertiary education after China. The tertiary education enrollment in India was 35.2 million in 2019. So as per the UNESCO data, India has one of the highest graduate from science, technology, engineers, and mathematics programs as a proportion of all graduates. So India is a potential market for all kinds of new technologies with increasing internet consumption across the nation. So India will soon have twice the number of internet users as the USA. So we can compare that our a lot of persons are in India are graduates, science graduate. They are very easily adopt the new technologies. So educational infrastructure for higher study poses certain challenge with respect to quality and accessibility. The domestic industry has not yet managed to derive the benefit of the large consumer base of India. Also, India is operating as far below its potential in sectors like electronic manufacturing. So India is also highly dependent on import for electronic goods and components. Now, what are the suggestive measures? As Indian account for one of the highest tertiary education enrollment, university and public institutions in the country should be strengthened to deepen and broaden the India's technology capabilities. And the public spending on education should be increased to improve the quality and access of higher education. And strengthen public sector will create more opportunities for private businesses and widen the entrepreneurial base. The PSUs should be valued for the long-term contributions to economic growth and asset building for the nation. And the government should be more versatile for increasing the business participation of private industries. For example, an initiative like Make in India needs to be more comprehensive than the singular focus on ease of doing businesses. The domestic market should be categorically strengthened to avail the advantage of large consumes base for the technological sector. Okay, so this is all for today's news articles. We'll meet you tomorrow to discuss tomorrow's newspaper article in detail. Thanks, everybody. Good night.